Sarah Matthews had always prided herself on being strong, reliable, and capable of handling anything life threw at her. She was the type of person everyone counted on: the dependable project manager at work, the devoted mother of two, the rock-solid friend who never missed a birthday or forgot a special occasion. But in the past few months, something had shifted. Work projects piled up, deadlines loomed over her, and her family responsibilities grew heavier each day. It felt like every little thing she did added weight to an already overloaded scale. The breaking point came on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. Sarah was in a meeting, her team gathered around the conference table, her laptop glowing in front of her. She had rehearsed the presentation dozens of times, yet as she clicked to the first slide, her heart began to pound. The edges of her vision blurred, and a cold wave washed over her as if she were underwater, trying to breathe against the pressure. It wasn't until she heard her boss's voice, stern and concerned, "Sarah, are you all right?" that she realized she was gripping the edge of the table so tightly her knuckles had turned white. Her first panic attack had caught her completely off guard. That night, Sarah lay awake, replaying the moment over and over. What happened to me? She wondered. She felt ashamed, defeated. This wasn't the strong, unbreakable woman she knew. But more than the shame, there was fear of losing control, fear of breaking under the weight she tried so hard to carry. As the minutes turned into hours, she realized she had a choice: keep going down the same road or find a way to change. Desperate for a solution, Sarah began searching for strategies to regain control over her life. Therapy and mindfulness apps offered some relief, but it was an article on Stoic philosophy that caught her eye. She read about how ancient Stoics approached challenges, embracing hardship and seeking inner peace rather than external validation. Inspired, Sarah decided to take on a personal challenge: to live by 5 Stoic principles for 1 week and see if they could help her handle her stress in a new way. The next morning, Sarah sat down with a notebook and wrote out her 5 chosen Stoic mindsets. Her first principle to tackle: focus only on what you can control. This was easier said than done. At work, Sarah's thoughts would often spiral as she obsessed over things she had no influence over: her boss's opinion, her client's feedback, her colleagues' impressions. She knew she couldn't control others, but her mind seemed determined to fixate on these worries. On day 1, Sarah decided to put this principle to the test. She started her day by listing out the tasks she could control and actively reminding herself to let go of the rest. Yet, as soon as she entered the office, she felt the pull of her old habits. Her boss called her in for a quick update, and the familiar anxiety bubbled up. Her mind raced, worrying about what he might think of her latest project. Instead of spiraling, Sarah took a deep breath, closed her eyes for a brief moment, and reminded herself: focus on what you can control. When she opened her eyes, she responded to her boss calmly, focusing on sharing only the facts and details of the project without worrying about his reaction. It was tough. She felt the urge to overshare, to justify her every choice. But for the first time, she left the meeting without replaying it in her head, without feeling the need to overanalyze his every word and expression. It wasn't easy, and she still felt the lingering tug of anxiety, but she also felt a little lighter over the next 2 days. Sarah practiced this principle repeatedly, often catching herself mid-thought. What if I said the wrong thing? Or did my client take that the wrong thing? Or did my client take that the wrong way? She would pause, breathe, and say to herself, I did my best with what I could control. Slowly, she found herself worrying less about others' perceptions and focusing more on completing her tasks with intention and care. It was exhausting at first, a battle between habit and intention, but she began to see small shifts in her thinking. The next principle she adopted was embrace discomfort. As she read about this mindset, she realized how much she'd been running from her discomfort. Whenever work stressed her out, she would mindlessly scroll through social media, binge on sugary snacks, or dive into her favorite TV show for hours. The idea of facing discomfort directly felt like asking a fish to live on land. But she committed to giving it a try, setting her sights on something tangible, taking a 5-minute cold shower each morning. The first morning was almost unbearable. The cold water was a shock to her system, each second feeling like a miniature eternity. Her initial instinct was to jump out, to end the discomfort as quickly as possible, but as the icy water ran over her, she forced herself to breathe through it. By the third minute, she realized her mind had calmed, her heartbeat steadying as she focused on the sensation and allowed herself to simply be in the discomfort without fighting it. That small victory left her feeling invigorated. If she could handle that cold shock each morning, maybe she could face other discomforts too. She began to use this practice at work, sitting with the discomfort of a stressful situation without rushing to distract herself. It was uncomfortable yet freeing. She realized that by avoiding discomfort, she had actually given it more power. Embracing it, however, left her feeling oddly resilient. Each day brought its own set of challenges and small victories. One afternoon, her manager scheduled a last-minute meeting. Normally, this would have sent her into a panic as she imagined everything that could go wrong. But instead, she remembered her Stoic principles. "I'll focus on what I can control," she thought, mentally preparing only her main points for the meeting without obsessing over potential outcomes. She also reminded herself to embrace discomfort, the discomfort of not having all the answers, of facing the unknown. The first few days were far from perfect. She still felt the pull of her anxieties, still had moments of doubt and stress, but something was shifting. Each time she leaned into these principles, she felt a tiny bit stronger, a little more capable. By the end of day 3, she had noticed subtle changes. She wasn't snapping at her family as often, and she was sleeping slightly better at night. The results weren't dramatic, but they were real, and they gave her the motivation to keep going. By day 4, Sarah started to feel the weight of her commitment. The constant mindfulness, the self-reminders, the cold showers, it was tiring. She questioned if these principles were truly making a difference. Yet, every time doubt crept in, she reminded herself why she'd started. She thought back to that panic attack in the conference room, to the fear she felt that night when she lay awake, uncertain and vulnerable. That memory alone kept her pushing forward. In these early days of her journey, Sarah learned more about herself than she had in years. She discovered the extent to which she'd been running from her discomfort, the unhealthy attachment she had to others' opinions, and the relief that came from releasing what she couldn't control. It was just the beginning, but for the first time in a long time, she felt a glimmer of hope, a small light in the overwhelming fog of stress that had plagued her for so long. And so, with her small victories and her newly found resolve, she prepared herself for the next steps, ready to see if this Stoic experiment could truly transform not only her week, but maybe even her life by the 5th day. Sere Kesame, Sere Kesame. The Stoic mindsets of focusing on what she could control and embracing discomfort had not only helped her calm her mind, but also brought moments of surprising clarity. Still, she knew there was more to explore, and she wanted to see just how deep these Stoic practices could take her. With renewed determination, she moved on to the next principles, eager to see if they could unlock further insights. Mindset 3: Use setbacks as opportunities for growth. The next principle felt both inspiring and intimidating, viewing setbacks as opportunities for growth. This was a shift from Sarah's typical response to setbacks, which was usually frustration or disappointment. On that 5th day, a perfect opportunity arose to put this mindset to the test. During a critical client presentation, the software malfunctioned, leaving her with a blank screen in front of an audience waiting for her insights. Normally, Sarah would have panicked, her thoughts racing as she scrambled to find a solution. But this time, she stopped herself. What would a Stoic do? She asked herself, reminding herself of her new principle. She took a deep breath, allowing a moment of silence before addressing the audience. Instead of apologizing profusely or fumbling through the problem, she calmly acknowledged the glitch, assured them it would be resolved shortly, and seized the opportunity to explain the presentation's key points verbally, demonstrating her deep knowledge of the subject. The audience was engaged, and her colleagues praised her for staying composed. Afterwards, Sarah reflected on the experience. In the past, this kind of setback would have haunted her, leading her to criticize herself for messing up. Now, she realized that every obstacle had the potential to teach her something valuable. This small win boosted her confidence, showing her that setbacks could indeed be reframed as learning experiences. Mindset 4E, practice gratitude daily. On day 6, Sarah embraced a new mindset that Stoics considered essential: practicing gratitude. Up until now, she had always thought of gratitude as something that came and went with special occasions or good news, not as a daily practice. But as she began the day listing 3 things she was grateful for: a stable job, her family's support, and her health, she felt a shift within her. That morning on her way to work, Sarah found herself noticing the simple beauty of the world around her. She felt gratitude for the warm sun, the comforting smell of coffee in her travel mug, and even for the smile of a stranger on the train. It was as if a fog had lifted, and she was seeing life in a new light. Gratitude, she realized, was about more than just feeling good. It was about being fully present, recognizing the value in each moment. As the day went on, she noticed herself handling stress differently. When her workload increased unexpectedly, she felt the usual urge to complain or feel burdened. Instead, she paused and reminded herself of what she was grateful for. This small practice softened her perspective, turning what would have been a stressful day into one filled with moments of appreciation and calm. By the end of the day, she was eager to share her reflections with her family. Over dinner, she encouraged her children to share something they were grateful for that day. Watching their faces light up as they recounted their stories, she felt a deep satisfaction. Gratitude had transformed her day, and now it was bringing her family closer. Mindset 5 Memento Mori. Remember, you will die. The last Stoic principle Sarah adopted was perhaps the most profound. Memento Mori, or remembering mortality, was a concept she initially found unsettling. Yet as she reflected on it, she realized the value of confronting her own mortality, not as a source of fear, but as a reminder to live fully. She began to ask herself, if today were my last day, how would I live it? This question became a powerful motivator. She realized that so much of her stress stemmed from worrying about the future or dwelling on past mistakes, yet Stoicism emphasized that life is fleeting and should be lived in the present. She decided to make small changes that aligned with this philosophy. She started saying "I love you" more often to her family, letting go of small annoyances and taking time to do things she genuinely enjoyed, like reading and painting. That day, as she was wrapping up a long work project, her colleague Anna invited her to lunch. Normally, Sarah would have declined, citing her workload, but this time she accepted. They spent the lunch hour chatting and laughing, sharing stories and dreams. It reminded Sarah of the value of human connection and how much of life she had missed out on by being perpetually busy. For the first time in years, she felt free from the shackles of work obligations, as if she had reclaimed a piece of herself. The week had been a transformative one. Sarah felt like she had not just added a few new practices, but had fundamentally changed her relationship with stress and her outlook on life. Each principle had taught her a lesson that seemed to build upon the last, creating a powerful framework for resilience and inner peace. As she reflected on her journey, she realized the most profound lesson Stoicism had taught her was that life was not about controlling every outcome, but about how she responded to it. In the past, she had tried so hard to keep every aspect of her life in perfect order, exhausting herself in the process. Now, she understood that true strength came from within, and that her responses mattered more than the events themselves. With this newfound wisdom, Sarah felt compelled to share her experience, hoping it could help others as it had helped her. She wrote an article for her company's wellness newsletter detailing each Stoic principle and the changes she had experienced. She was honest about the challenges and the hard moments, but she emphasized the rewards of persistence and the freedom that came with each breakthrough. Her message was simple yet profound. You have the power to choose how you respond to life's challenges, and with the right mindset, stress can become a stepping stone rather than a stumbling block. Kai lessons learned as Sarah put the finishing touches on her article. She summarized her journey into 3 key lessons. Focus on what you control. She had learned that much of her stress stemmed from Chunwon. By letting go of others' opinions and focusing on her own actions, she felt lighter, less burdened by expectations, embraced discomfort. In learning to sit with discomfort, whether through cold showers or work challenges, she found strength she didn't know she had. Discomfort was no longer something to fear, but an opportunity for growth. Live fully and embrace mortality. Finally, remembering her own mortality had changed everything. It had freed her from worrying about trivial matters, inspiring her to prioritize love, presence, and connection. Life was fleeting, and each moment deserved her attention. A call to action. Feeling a sense of completion, Sarah ended her article with a call to action for her readers. She urged them not just to read about Stoicism, but to try it, even if just for a day. Embrace one Stoic principle, she wrote, and see where it takes you. You may find, as I did, that the way we think has the power to transform the way we live. She concluded with a message that she hoped would resonate. Life will never be without challenges, but by choosing how we respond, we can turn those challenges into a journey of growth, strength, and gratitude. As she submitted her article, Sarah felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Her journey had not been easy, but it had been worth every struggle, every moment of self-doubt. For the first time in years, she felt at peace, not because her life had changed, but because she had changed. And as she looked forward, she knew she would continue practicing these principles, knowing they would guide her through whatever life had in store. The week may have ended, but her journey with Stoicism had only just begun.